We're following the path of Francine, what to expect here at home. And a second system is bringing us increased rain chances. The timeline for what could be a soaking.
26 pages, 17 pages. These are universities' plans on how they're getting rid of DEI. We'll show you how many positions are being cut and how much money UNC system schools are saving.
Then a local pastor accused of groping a man in a Walmart bathroom, where police say he ran off after the incident before his arrest. Right now at 7, Francine slamming the Gulf Coast as a powerful Category 1 hurricane. We're taking a look at the radar right now. The storm packing 90-mile-per-hour winds moving towards New Orleans. Oh boy, it's going to get worse as it gets darker. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. What a scene. We have a bunch of live pictures to bring you, but this one popped up of Morgan City, Louisiana. You can see this reporter. We can't really hear what he's saying, but you can certainly get a sense of what they're dealing with there. The waves crashing in the background, the rain soaking him right now. So much to talk about as this hurricane makes landfall. We have live team coverage for you tonight of the impacts. We want to begin with meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center tracking all of this. Kat.
It's a rough night in Louisiana, Dan. Francine made landfall shortly after 6 o'clock as a Category 2 hurricane, but with the new hourly update, it's back down to 90-mile-an-hour winds. Still very dangerous winds. Keep in mind, those could be sustained winds in some areas. Moving northeast at 17 miles per hour, and some of those more intense rain bands just beginning to move into New Orleans at the moment. New flash flood warnings have been issued along the Louisiana coast with this system, and the eye wall could pass directly over New Orleans. The latest wind gust report there is 52 miles per hour, but there was a gust of 105 miles per hour on Eugene Island just a short time ago near landfall. Now, keep in mind, you got these really powerful winds, and they're all pushing this water ashore. Storm surge, a big threat with 5 to 10 foot totals possible for the storm surge inundation. 11-foot waves just off the Louisiana coast there, and already some rainfall reports exceeding 6 inches along the coast of Louisiana. We will see barely any rain from this system in your rain gauge, just a few spotty showers here over the weekend. As the core of remnants really stay to our west, we will see a lot of the clouds, though, make their way into North Carolina, and you're starting to see those now. You'll see a lot more tomorrow. A lot to watch in the tropics. Francine is our third landfalling hurricane in the U.S. this season, but we're watching an area that could become tropical off the North Carolina coast next week and bring us some rain. That would be early in the week. 2 other systems in the main development region that could develop, and tropical depression number 7. A lot to watch, and we'll have much more on these other systems coming up. Aaron Thomas is in the WRAL Live Center with a closer look at this situation unfolding in Louisiana.
That's correct, Kat. In fact, we're giving you live images once again right here in Morgan City, Louisiana. This is about 90 minutes outside of New Orleans. You really have to feel for this reporter on the ground right now at 7, just getting pelted by some of the heavy rains. We've only seen these conditions intensify since we've been on the air. You can see a lot of the storm surge that's kicking up behind him, some of the heavy winds, and a lot of the heavy rain that continues to fall. Of course, we're going to continue to keep our eye out on this as some of those conditions continue to change. We've also seen some of the National Guard trucks come in ready to provide assistance when needed.
We are getting our first look at the UNC system-wide impacts of eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Nearly 6 positions were cut when the system replaced the program. This, of course, impacts 17 schools in the UNC system statewide. In our area, UNC eliminating 20 jobs, NC State 8 jobs. WRAL's Monica Casey looks into where the $17 million of DEI funding is going now and how students feel about it.
26 pages. This is NC State's plan on how they'll get rid of DEI. UNC Chapel Hill's plan is 17 pages long. Most of the universities in the system say the money from DEI will go toward what they call student success initiatives.
Across the system, 59 jobs were cut, 131 were reassigned. UNC universities saved $17 million. Chapel Hill eliminated the most positions at 20, saving over $5.3 million. NC State reassigned the most positions at 29, saving almost $5 million. Board of Governors member Joel Ford wanted to assure the public that the UNC system is for everyone.
We are open to all and that we are inclusive and that it is our job and responsibility to educate everyone and to do our best to retain and graduate them with as little amount of debt as possible.
He asked System President Peter Hans to join in that reassurance.
That remains our obligation under federal law, state law, and our moral obligation as well.
But students on UNC Chapel Hill's campus feel differently.
And it seems that those students are kind of getting left behind in a very purposeful manner now.
Ben Neal is a student ambassador who was housed in the Diversity and Inclusion office. He tells me the office is closed and the future of the programming is unclear.
The work that we were doing provided vital programming to students. Things like unconscious bias training that's super vital and helps a lot of people. MLK Junior Week of Celebration, where we provided scholarships to students.
The rollback of DEI isn't limited to UNC or higher education. Companies including John Deere, Ford, and Lowe's have also rolled back DEI initiatives. Reporting in Raleigh, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
Today, a threat was made against a Moore County school. Pinecrest High School went on a soft lockdown as police investigated this. Police say they found out about it from an anonymous tip, but no actual threat was found. In Wake County, though, police say a student at Sanderson High School brought a gun on the school bus. Police tell us it happened Monday afternoon. Parents were notified yesterday. Police say they will file a juvenile petition against the student. In a statement, police encourage families to make sure firearms are secured in their homes.
A longtime local pastor is accused of groping a man in a Walmart bathroom. Jeffrey Smith is charged with sexual battery in connection with the incident. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan explains what else warrants are revealing.
Good morning. Welcome to Mebane Presbyterian. Wonderful to see you here in the Lord's house.
That's Pastor Jeffrey Smith delivering his sermon this past Sunday. The morning after Smith spoke to parishioners, Mebane police say he showed up here at this Walmart around 9 a.m. on Monday. And that's where warrants indicate Smith approached a male in the Walmart with sexual intentions, committed sexual battery on someone in the Walmart men's room, and fled the scene and was apprehended in the woods behind sheets. Warrants indicate he touched the victim through his clothing by grabbing the victim's genitals by force and against the will of the other person. I met a parishioner in the parking lot of the church today who had no idea of the charge his pastor of 25 years was facing.
To know that he's been arrested for sexual battery, how does that make you feel?
Well, I'd like to hear his side of it. I just can't believe it.
I called Pastor Smith today and he had no comment on the sexual battery charge. Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News, Mebane.
Let's get you caught up now on some of the other top stories that we're following for you tonight. Here are the 5 things you should know right now. A large scene at Smithfield-Selma High School this afternoon after an accident involving pepper spray. First responders were there as some students briefly evacuated their classrooms. The school district said several students had to be treated after a student released pepper spray inside the building. It's unclear if this was intentional or if it was done by accident. A Harnett County deputy charged in a crash that killed a couple will go to trial next year. Deputy Kevin Latart is charged now with involuntary manslaughter in the deaths of Brian and Patricia Finch. You see the terrible scene here. Investigators say that deputy was involved in a chase that led to this crash that killed the couple in March. A jury trial is now set for next June.
Today, state lawmakers gave their final seal of approval to the legislature for private school vouchers and immigration enforcement. The House vote was along party lines. The bill now goes to Governor Roy Cooper's desk. Cooper is expected to veto the measure. However, North Carolina General Assembly has a veto-proof supermajority. Thousands of North Carolina students are potentially unvaccinated and at risk of catching measles. The state reported a child in Mecklenburg County tested positive for measles. It's one of the most highly contagious diseases in the world. The MMR vaccine is required for North Carolina students, but data shows 9,000 kindergartners statewide were not up to date on required vaccinations last school year.
UNC Health wrecks his hopes of building a new hospital in Wake Forest. It's one of two projects meant to meet the healthcare needs of Wake County. The 50-bed facility would be built just behind a shopping center in Wake Forest. The mayor says it would help meet some of the regional healthcare needs. The state will hold a public hearing on them all on October 18th.
Remembering 9/11 and honoring the thousands who died in the attacks 23 years ago today. A look at how people paid tribute to the victims and first responders here in our area. Plus, one candidate's lawsuit managed to stop the entire state from mailing out absentee ballots. Dan goes in depth on the RFK Jr. saga and what it means for early voting next. And as we head to break, here is a live look at New Orleans. Hurricane Francine will hit this area later tonight. Kat has an update on this storm ahead.
Hey, let's take a minute and go in depth. Got this email from Pam. She wrote me about RFK and the ballots. She said he sued North Carolina to get his name on the ballot. Then he sued to have it removed. How much did those lawsuits cost the North Carolina taxpayers? So for those of you who really don't know the details here, Robert F. Kennedy was running as a third-party candidate. He leaned a bit right on some things, like calling to disband the Department of Education. He leaned left on other things, like being a huge proponent for environmental protections and acknowledging the threat of a changing climate. He had a pretty decent following for a time and fought to get on the ballot in North Carolina, even suing the state when they didn't plan to put him on the ballot, which is something that he won, so he was on. But since Harris took over for Biden and the race changed a lot, she and Trump became the clear frontrunners, and the polls gave Kennedy pretty much an impossible chance of winning. So he dropped out and he endorsed Trump. And in the 10 states that are up for grabs, like North Carolina, where he was on the ballot, he then filed to get his name removed from those ballots. So here, that meant another lawsuit in North Carolina. Earlier this week, the state Supreme Court agreed with Kennedy in his argument now in lawsuit number 2 by a 4-3 ruling and ordered that his name should now be removed, despite all the mail-in and early voting ballots already being printed and paid for. Justice Trey Allen wrote in the majority ruling, that is a price the North Carolina Constitution expects us to incur to protect voters' fundamental right to vote their conscience and have that vote counted. Basically, they were worried that voters would be confused if they saw RFK on the ballot, and since they were printed but never sent out, they looked at it as, hey, we still have time to make that change. So the court ruled, and the elections people had to get back to work, and some of them are not happy about it.
So everything was completely scrapped. Wake County spent $66,000 on those ballots that all have to be discarded.
That's Jerry Cohen. He's with the Wake County Board of Elections, and they just spent multiple days working double-digit hours for nothing, essentially, just to have to start over from scratch. So back to Pam's email. I'm not sure how much the lawsuits cost, but when you add up all of the work and the ballots and the reprinting and all that stuff for 100 counties in the state, it's going to cost about $1 million overall. Every county handles their own situation, and some pay a lot more than others. Some of the smaller counties, they only had to do a handful of redos. These 14 counties here have fewer than 100 requests in all for mail-in ballots. They may be able to, click print and get the whole job done in-house. But larger counties have a much larger problem. We contacted the 10 counties with the most ballots requested already. Most of them said they have to pay now a 25% increase, 25% more this go around to get more ballots printed this second time. Wake County has the most requests for mail-in ballots already at 24,000, and that extra 25% will add up pretty quickly. So why so much? Well, really, there are only about 3 vendors that do this type of work, and those vendors are now getting a lot of orders from not just North Carolina, but all the other states too. And it won't just take extra money to get the job done. It's going to take a lot of extra time, causing them to miss deadlines and windows that some voters may have been counting on.
Statewide, there's 132,000 voters who will get a ballot 2 weeks after they expected it. Some of them who are on the road might have, considering there have been publicity for 6 months that Friday was the mail-out date, might have provided an address where they will be maybe Monday or Tuesday of next week. And if they've moved on 2 weeks later, they're going to have to either request a new ballot or not vote. I don't know.
So all in all, what we do know is that the ballots will be late, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month. And those deadlines are not really recommendations, they are law. So what does that mean for the potential of more of those lawsuits that Pam was talking about? Well, we reached out to 5 different legal scholars and professors today, and frankly, none of them seem too concerned looking forward. But we're gonna have to see how it plays out. So let me know what you think. This is definitely a rock and a hard place kind of issue. I mean, either confuse voters by having a ballot that lists a name of a guy who's actually not running, or confuse them by being late, possibly. Or does it even really matter? Do you think this is being kind of blown into a bigger situation than it really is? Email me. Let me know. Dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what's on your mind. And as always, we'll go in depth.
Today, NC State's Carter Finley Stadium invited people to honor the sacrifice of first responders on 9/11 by climbing stairs. It was 23 years ago when terrorists flew planes into the World Trade Center towers, killing many innocent victims. Climbing the steps at the stadium symbolizes the heroic efforts of firefighters and first responders on that day. Participants we spoke with say this was an emotional experience. And a similar experience at UNC's Keenan Stadium this morning. You can see dozens of people participated, many with military or firefighter gear. The event pays tribute to the New York Fire Department by climbing the equivalent of the 110 stories of the World Trade Center. Let's get another live look at New Orleans now as Hurricane Francine moves closer. This is a live look at the Superdome. Yeah, we've just been seeing things get a little darker and grayer and just overall not pleasant. Meteorologist Kat Campbell is watching it all. This is the city that's going to be really slammed the next couple of hours, right, Kat?
Right, and you know, the worst is coming after dark. You just don't want tornadoes after dark. These rainfall rates in this band around the eye wall, 5 to 6 inches per hour. Flash flood warnings are being upgraded to flash flood emergencies right now along the Louisiana coast. It's really a rough time there and just very heavy rain. Here's New Orleans right here. They're about to get this band of heavy rain that's going to be moving in a short period of time. So let's take a look at the latest on Francine. A tornado watch in effect for much of the Louisiana coast as well as Mississippi. Maximum sustained winds of 90 miles per hour. Storm surge maxing out at 5 to 10 feet, inundation 4 to 6 feet possible closer to Gulfport, Mississippi, and even over into New Orleans. It's going to be a long night as that water gets pushed ashore. For us here locally, we're not going to see that much rain from Francine. We will see a lot of clouds, though, as we head into the weekend. Those clouds hold on, and then rainfall totals should be pretty light for us, a 1/10 of an inch Saturday and Sunday. But a new low pressure system may develop early next week, or it may develop over the weekend, but really move closer to us early next week. And that's what brings the better chance of some sizable rainfall totals. So if you need some rain at your house, it looks like it's coming, but it's just going to hold off at least the better chances until early next week. For your updated weekend forecast, still going with a 20% chance of rain on Friday, a 30% chance both Saturday and Sunday. So even though you see the rain icons both days, it's a 30% chance. It's not going to be a washout. 82 for the high both Saturday and Sunday. But Sunday night into Monday, that's when we could really begin to see some heavier rain pushing in. So let's take a look at Futurecast. During the day tomorrow, a lot of clouds from Francine. We see it weaken into remnant low pressure by tomorrow night and continue to the north where it just eventually kind of falls apart and fizzles out in this area. For Friday at noon, just that 20% chance of rain, mainly in our southern counties. And then as we look ahead to Saturday, we'll watch for perhaps some light showers to move in midday into the afternoon. But it's this front that you see kind of stalled out in this region. That's where we could see an area of low pressure spin up along the front. And this time of year, it's the peak of hurricane season. Anytime you have a stalled front offshore, this is something you got to watch out for. And we'll keep a close eye on it for you. About a 30% chance that it could take on tropical or subtropical characteristics. The good news is because it develops pretty close to home, it doesn't have very much time to strengthen. High temperatures over the weekend stay in the low 80s. Early next week, we're going with a 60% chance of rain Monday as well as Wednesday. So rain chances are early in the week, and they could stick around a little later in the week as well.
All right, we'll continue to monitor that. Thank you, Kat. Still ahead, we are still awaiting an official announcement, but we're getting a sneak peek at PNC Arena's new name. Plus, a look at new renderings of what's in store for the home of the Canes and Wolfpack.
This was interesting. The new name of what we currently call PNC Arena was accidentally revealed this afternoon.
Well, WRAL's Brett Neese, he doesn't miss a beat. He snapped this picture outside the arena, the wind blowing the tarp covering the new sign to reveal Lenovo. The Centennial Authority is set to vote on the new name tomorrow.
Wind.
Yes. Meanwhile, this was not an accidental reveal.
So the Hurricanes released these new renderings here of what $1 billion investment into an entertainment district there would look like around the arena. These renderings are pretty interesting to look at. They show 2 parking garages with tailgating space between them. Hurricanes CEO Brian Fork says that they plan to build a 150-room hotel, 500 apartments, and have plenty of space for shops and restaurants. These are just concepts and renderings at this point. The Canes, though, are looking for some feedback before moving forward with the process of rezoning that land so that this could happen. They hope to break ground at the end of 2025.
Very interesting. Hey, before we leave you tonight, we wanted to share a viewer photo that has been making us smile all day today. So who you're looking at right now is 4-year-old Heidi on her first day of pre-K.
She's so confident. She's ready. She dressed herself, if you can't tell. Silk PJs, Yoda slippers, the pink sunglasses, more confidence than anybody could ever have. Her mom snapped this photo just before they headed to school. Apparently she did switch into a more appropriate day one outfit, but I like where her head was at.
Yes, and she did so unwillingly. But you know what? Heidi, you look awesome. Wear what you want, girl.
We love our families and their adorable families at home. Thank you for watching us here on WRAL News.
Good night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air channel 34 and Spectrum channel 1257.